interpreting the Quran, or Quranic lessons for the infidel. We had noticed an email that there were a couple of other people that were going to be joining us, but at the last minute that was not going to happen. So with me again, as always, is Bogey, and Bogey, you have some notes for the blog post that we were talking about.
Oh
You
yeah,
want
I do have my notes ready, and
All right,
yeah,
well, let's take it away.
yippers. So Surah 36, otherwise called Yasin, is one of those surahs that starts with these uninterpretable letters, like a few others that we have already met.
So is that
Um,
what Yasin is? It's a letter.
it's two letters,
Okay.
and when you put them together, it sounds like a Yasin.
Okay. And then
So
nobody knows why that is, or
no,
why that's the title.
no, just like the other one with the five letters in it, and the other one with the three letters in it, and whatever. It happens.
Okay.
We don't know. Nobody will tell you what it means. Nobody actually knows what it means, and they couldn't come up with any interesting interpretation except the ones that says, "Well, this is a control checksum adjustment, so the Quran cannot be falsified." But then again, they don't have the checksum, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's kind of like, sure, great idea, computer age technology, so and so, but if you don't have a checksum, calculating a checksum isn't going to make anything.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
So
so
go ahead.
yeah, let's start with this lengthy chapter. My first notes are on 36:7.
36:7. And
Yes.
the verdict has been passed among most of them, for they refuse to believe.
Yes, the reference is for the unbelievers because your article wasn't clear on that.
Well, I think it's established that it was for the unbelievers. It said they refused to believe. You got that?
Yeah, yeah. It is meant for the unbelievers.
Okay.
Next one is 36:11.
36:11.
Yeah.
Okay, and that goes to all right. You can warn only those who will follow the Quran and hold the merciful one in awe, though they cannot see him. Give such people the glad news of forgiveness and a noble reward. So you have to be you have to look at
You
someone you can't see and hold them in awe.
Yes, these are the articles of faith for Muslims.
Yeah,
Like this is
so
what
you can
they
only convince those who will believe, is what it's saying. So
right. You and when you believe, you have to believe on the articles of faith, all of them. So it's based on the Quranic claim that is demanded from every Muslim. Literally, the unconditional belief of everything in the Quran, everything, including the splitting the moon part. What I wanted to dig into this verse is a dhikr is not a reminder; it's actually a name for the Quran. So whoever follows the Quran and feared Allah,
mhm.
even through the unseen, like even though he would never be seen for him. So those are going to get forgiven and rewarded handsomely.
How
I
do
know my yes.
how do people not realize that this is pretend? Or I mean, I've met people who believe and know that it is pretend, and who admit
Remember,
that they know that it is pretend.
we're talking 1400 years ago. People were a lot simpler back then. If you said
Okay.
these things, they tended to believe you.
Okay.
I mean, People believed the Bible.
Yeah, but as I said, I've met people in this century who say that they know that what they believe is not really true, but they're
It's
going to do it anyway.
it's inertia. They believed it back then. Your parents believed it. Your grandparents believed it. Now you're gonna have to believe it, and it's just that inertia just carries on, and then you get the apologetics guys. It just moves on by its own weight. So my next note, 3612.
12, let's see. We shall certainly bring the dead back to life, and we record what they sent ahead of them as well as what they leave behind. We keep an account of everything and a clear record. And how do they do that?
Remember the shoulder angels? Yeah, those guys.
So how many shoulder angels do we have? Because we have two shoulder angels for every person, and
For
each
every
set of
person.
shoulder angels only has to deal with one person, not move on to the next person. So when
I
they're done with
don't
that,
think yeah, because they might mix up the facts that you did or you didn't, right? So the shoulder angels are for one person, and when that person is done, is gone, they are just sipping tea in heaven, right? They got no more job to do.
and how many people have been estimated to be alive?
Estimated according to scientists, 100,000 years since we called humans, 80 billion people.
80 billion people. So
80 billion people ever existed on the face of the
so
planet.
160 billion shoulder angels.
160 billion, give and take, and you should hope they're not unionized because then you gotta beg.
Okay.
Because
All
if
right.
they go on strike, that would be tough.
And where's our next verse?
Well, there is one little note on this verse: recording everything, aka the shoulder angels, even though everything has been predestined and written prior to any creation. Good luck squaring that out, because nobody can.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, the Quran goes into talking about future times. It says what people will say, and more specifically, what the devil himself will say. So the devil apparently
Yes.
doesn't even have free will. God knows
Well,
exactly what
he
everybody.
might have, but God knows what he's going to say.
How do you have free will then?
Well, ask Sam Harris.
If God knows what you're going to do before you do it, you don't have the will to surprise God. You don't have
You
free will.
no, you cannot be surprised unless I do it, in which case he will be surprised.
Okay.
Yay. So 36:18 to 19.
All right. We have, and I have to start with 17 because it's part of a continuous sentence. Our duty is only to deliver the message to you. But they answered, we think you are an evil omen. If you do not stop, we shall stone you and inflict a painful torment upon you. The messengers said, the evil omen is within yourselves. Why do you take it as an evil omen when you are reminded of the truth? You are going too far. And I
I'm
always have
already
a hard time with empty assertions.
I'm already shaking in my boots.
Yeah. I always have a problem with people saying, when they talk about the truth, and what they're saying, what they're calling the truth is an empty assertion that is not evidently true. Truth is what the facts are, what we can show to be true, not just whatever you want
An
to pretend.
assertion, a
Yeah,
claim, a vacuous claim. That's what
yeah.
it is.
You don't get to call it
Anyways,
the truth if you can't show the truth of it.
yes, this is one of the reasons I don't like the translations that are out there for the Quran, because these verses actually mention an ancient divining method, which is, well, I'm not going to say specific to the Arabian Peninsula, but it is definitely used there at the time. Divining method like chicken entrails, uh, bone throwing, the leftover at the bottom of the coffee cup. The Arabs at the time used to do these traditional things where if they want to do something, if they want to ask the the conjurer, whether it's a good thing to do or not, they release a bird, or they release a few birds. And if the birds fly in the right direction, then they go ahead and commence with the action. If the birds fly in the wrong direction, then they don't do it because it's bad omen. So these two verses actually mention this birding thing as a way of divining good and bad luck, or good and bad omens.
That just
It's
seems a bit ambiguous. So if the bird goes to the right, then we do it. If the bird goes to the left, then we don't. What
Yeah,
happens when the bird goes behind you or straight ahead?
that's when the other birds come and throw small stones at you.
The scientific
Bird
explanation.
power.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that was believable that pumice stones killed the elephants,
Well, it didn't
then
necessarily say that it killed them. It might just have annoyed them.
probably annoyed them to the point where they threw their riders off. But like a pumice stone is like the elephant wouldn't notice.
Even
It's
if
like,
it wasn't pumice stone, as that one apologist was arguing, even if they were heavier stones, the fact that they were heavier stones would mean that they would also have to be smaller because they're being carried by birds, which means that you'd still have a minimal effect.
yes. Yeah, drone delivery is great, but it has its limitations. Okay, next note, 3629.
29. That is, here it is. I'm going to have to read a couple. Oh, yeah. There was just one blast and they fell down lifeless. And it's talking about the end time when everybody's supposed to be killed in a single, I guess, explosion. And then at the same time, all the dead people suddenly stand up alive, which would include all the people that were alive a moment ago and are now dead.
Yeah, this is why I don't like these translations. It's not a blast, it's not an explosion. Just like it, you immediately arrive to that because a blast means explosion. And this is the word a sayha, is a shout, is a cry. It's not an explosion,
Okay.
right?
So
they
God,
shouted them out, like literally shouted them to death, if that's possible, I guess.
I've seen the movie Dogma, and what the voice of God can do.
Well, definitely, it's in the movies, right? I mean, it has to
caused an angel's head to explode.
At that point, it has to be true.
Or
Yay!
and wag the dog. I know it's true. I saw it on TV.
Yes, I have a longer note that it is in reference to the village people who had the affair with the camel and got 3 prophets, and this
Was
got 2
this the
prophets.
construction worker, the cop, or the biker, or the Indian?
The biker.
Okay.
That the guy who lived in the burbs.
Okay.
And this guy still killed the camel and ate it anyways. Hence, they were shouted to death. And where? And my notes here go, and they're in their homes, face down, in other places, taken by the shout, and were like dry husks. And in another place, again, we met these references, dead in their homes or with their faces down. I already said that. It actually preferred out like in fire, or here it uses the word petered out like in fire.
Which verse?
This is 39, but these are references to other verses that talk about the same incident. Is the people
39.
Of the village.
So we have determined phases for the moon until it finally becomes like an old date stop.
29.
29.
29.
Okay. And let me see. Where's 29? There we go. That again, there was just one blast and they fell down lifeless. But it doesn't
They
go into the
fell
detail that
down,
you're talking about.
right, because the translation is crude.
Mm,
So they fell down, and the word used is Hamidun, okay, which is
okay.
plural of Hamid, which means it's like the fire when it peters out.
Okay.
So that's how they died. They petered out like a leftover fire.
Okay.
Just a picture. Yay. Next note 36, 34.
34. Uh, we have put gardens of date palms and grapes in the earth, and we have made springs of water gush out of it.
Nice. Except, of course, he didn't, which you mentioned correctly. But the big problem here is that Mecca and Medina does not have gardens of grapes. Gardens of grapes exist far, far, far in the north. The date trees are all over the place, so they are nondescript. And the gushing water, we're talking desert here. Yeah, gushing water, it does exist, but it is kind of scarce. So this is one of the, what's his name? Holland, Tom Holland, the historian brings up that there are no gardens of grapes in and around Mecca at the time. In fact, there are no gardens of grapes in Mecca even today. I mean, unless they built them in enclosed houses or whatever. So it's kind of strange that the Quran mentions it like this.
Well,
And these,
is this like a reference to the Garden of Eden where
no,
they
no, no,
weren't
this is the
necessarily
reference.
supposed to be there?
No, this is the reference here,
Okay.
like how he recreates life from death when the desert is dry, and then now he got to bring out living things out of the dead desert, and then we made in it the dead desert gardens of dates and vines of vine, right? So this is talking about earth. This is talking about this land here.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so we got 34. My next note is 36.
And 36 is glory be to him who created all the pairs of things that the earth produces, as well as themselves and other things they do not know about.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Male and female reproduction, just like date trees, well known to the nomads at the time. Um, everything is male and female in the Quran. Pairs of them, of everything. The Quran does not mention asexual reproduction anywhere. The bacteria must be very angry.
And not just bacteria, because there's quite a lot of there's quite a lot of asexual reproduction, which obviously they didn't know, or the mere fallible people who wrote the Quran didn't know.
No, they didn't. Clearly, if this is a book written by an all-knowing creator of the universe, he's missing a lot of things, and in that case, you have to question the motive.
Yeah, if it was
Because
written by an all-knowing God, would he have included mention of the New Mexico whiptail lizard, which is an entirely lesbian clone species?
definitely not. No, not those lesbians. No.
Lesbian lizards.
Yes, that definitely not get mentioned here. So yeah, that is 36, and we move on to 37.
The night is also a sign for them. We strip the daylight from it, and lo and behold, they are in darkness. The sun, too, runs its determined course laid out for it by the Almighty, the All Knowing. So apparently, two things here that I'm a little confused about. One is that the sun runs a course.
Yes, all the way to the hot, muddy pit at the west.
And rather than being on the other side of the earth because the sun is not running a course and that the earth is spinning and is a globe, and so half of it is always in the dark, it instead, the Quran says that the light is stripped from the sun, probably by being dunked in mud.
Yeah, it's the language here in 37 is even more interesting on that. The light has got nothing to do with the sun. I'm glad you're seated. He does not strip, he he skins the day from the night and skins the night from the day. He uses exactly the same word as when you skin an animal that you just killed. He
Okay.
skins it. He takes the
So
skin off the
it's
day.
wearing fire. The sun is just a ball that wears fire.
The sun is just there. It does not cause day and night.
Okay.
God make day and night happen by skinning it, every day. Just imagine. Maybe
Yeah.
you've seen it, maybe you're not. I don't know. Not a lot of people see actual animal skinning, but you skin the animal. You take the skin off,
Okay.
right?
So the sun is just the fire is just something that the sun wears.
It just has it. Doesn't
Okay.
matter. Doesn't cause anything. Not according to these verses.
Okay.
The language absolutely does not wear out that the sun causes the day or the night. The sun just
And it,
goes from where it starts on the planet and then sinks in the muddy pit on the other side. And it has nothing to do with the fact that all that happens during what we call a day and what God actually skids out for us every day.
and it's definitely implying that the sun has a course that it follows, and that this course syncs up with.
وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي, which runs,
Okay.
لِمُسْتَقَرٌ لَهَا. That's a destination, like a bus destination, okay? And that is by the will and measurement of the capable and very nice and whatever
Well,
and
that's even
knowledgeable
worse
God.
than saying that the sun runs a course. If the sun had, because you could argue that if the sun and all of the other stars, in some sense, rotate around that the entire of the galaxy rotates around a black hole in the middle, then all of it is in a sense rotating. So something could be said to have a course in that sense. But when you say destination, that's a whole different implication, and there's no way to defend that.
No, there is no way to win that. That's why I'm
And
bringing it up.
where's that apologist who was kept insisting that there were no scientific errors in the Quran? Because that's kind of a big one.
There are plenty. There are plenty. We need more apologists because we tend to run out of them very quickly.
Yes, indeed we do. All right, what's your next reference here?
Okay, 3638. Yeah, oh, that's already we talked about it. This is correct. The sun runs to its destination place of rest in the hot muddy puddle in the west, because that's what the sun does. 3639.
3639. We have determined phases for the moon until finally it becomes like an old date stock. And I was a little confused at this one because I remember being a little kid and looking at the night sky on a clear night, and on when you have like that thin sliver moon, I could still see the dark side of the moon. I can see the rest of the moon on a clear night. Surely somebody else, if I could see it, and I'm sure other people could see it too, right? Nobody could have thought that little sliver was all there was to the moon. That's just the lit part. You can see the part that isn't lit.
Yeah, the problem is this language doesn't bear that out. Like if I were to be fair to the language, God makes, estimates, measures the phases of the moon until it returns into the old dried up date husk
And again,
format.
the authorship here, the people writing this, the definitely mere people writing this, clearly had no idea that the phases of the moon are only its position against viewers on the Earth and where the sun.
Not a single tittle to that.
Yeah.
As if you read this verse and that's all you knew about the moon, you'd think God creates the moon every night in the correct shape and then destroys it and creates a new moon the next day with a slightly different shape until he gets to this cheese croissant shape at the end. And
It's the next verse that gets me.
which is 40.
Yes, the sun cannot overtake the moon, nor can the night outrun the day. Each floats in its own orbit. So it says here that the sun has an orbit. So this is apart and separate from the destination. The sun has an orbit, which means that it's rotating around the Earth, not rotating around the center of the galaxy, because that would not be an orbit. The entire galaxy is turning, and everything in that galaxy is milling about in its own kind of direction within that cosmic rotation. There are other movements happening, so you can't say that that's an orbit. But in this case, the Quran is saying that the sun orbits the Earth.
It says even worse than that
All right.
in this one verse. Yes, it doesn't get to, but each one of them are swimming in an orbit, Falak, which is fine. We will take Falak as orbit. It's actually a ship, a boat, but never mind that. Never mind that. The word Falak is used for ships. Okay. The word after that, which you say swim and not, what did you say?
It floats.
It's not float, it's swim.
Okay. But when it says that the sun cannot overtake the moon, I mean, it is an interesting thing, kind of unique, that in our position in the solar system, that the sun and the moon, from our vantage point, appear to be the same size because of how close the moon is, and so from that perspective, people would imagine that they're the same size, and that they must both move because of the rotation of the Earth and the way the moon is positioned, and so forth. But we do have eclipses, and so we know that the moon can overtake the sun. We've seen the moon in the daytime, which the Quran seems to be completely oblivious to the fact that the moon can also be visible in the daytime. It says here that can't happen. We know they had to have seen that. And when there is an eclipse, as sometimes happens, I mean, that's the sign, according to an earlier surah, that when is the end time going to be? It's going to be when there is a total eclipse of the sun.
Yeah, Muslims in general have a prayer. It's not a mandatory prayer that they do when these events happen. Solar and lunar eclipses.
Okay. And is there any significance to what the prayer is?
It's for those occasions.
Okay.
It's not mandatory. It's not like you're going to get, disinvited from Islam if you don't do it.
Okay. All right. Moving to the next verse. Are we ready for that?
Yeah, I think we're at 40.
The next verse you have a note for.
Yes, 47 is the one I have a note for.
And that one is, and when they are told, give to others out of what God has provided for you, the disbelievers say to the believers, why should we feed those that God could feed if he wanted? You must be deeply misguided.
Yeah. We're going to hell.
But the note I had to make, of course, is that why is it that God needs I mean, God literally wishes
Yeah,
to happen
that
and to come true, but he needs us to do his work.
yeah, that's my full endorsement of what you said. This is exquisitely expressed right there. That's why I'm going like, yeah, we're going to hell. You for writing it and me for agreeing completely with what you said right there. Uh, you nailed this one.
All right, what's the next
uh,
one you got a note for?
51.
51, jumping ahead. All right, so wait, I skipped one. All right, the trumpet will be sounded, and lo and behold, they will rush out to their Lord from their graves. And they will say, Alas for us, who has resurrected us from our resting places. They will be told, This is what the Lord of mercy promised, and the messengers told the truth. I've read too many verses. You said 51. I read 52 as well.
Yeah, I noticed. So 51 is actually, it uses the word trumpet. So this is correct. There is the sound of trumpets.
Give me a second. I'm constantly interrupted over here.
Hey, no problem.
Okay, so
So
God
he
is
actually uses the word
here that
trumpet.
he's shouting, and now God is not shouting. God is blowing his trumpet.
Yeah,
Oh,
because I guess he got tired after a
well,
while.
I guess you could shout and blow your own horn at the same time.
Yeah, I guess. So that was my note here. 55 is where the assumption here that men go to heaven and their pairs, spouses, are just there vicariously.
Okay, let me see. 55. The people of paradise today are happily occupied, and their spouses seated on couches in the shade. Well, that's also very different from the women that were being assigned in an earlier
Right.
story that says, guys would go to heaven and there would be like a team of women assigned to them.
Yes, yeah. This is like your spouse here on earth is going up to heaven with you. Obviously, this story changes and morphs every time it comes up. But here, does seem like what if the spouse was not a nice person? Is she going to get to heaven because the husband was nice?
Do Muslim weddings have that bit about till death do you part?
I don't know.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't know. Um, my recollection is that no,
Okay.
they don't have that part. It's a religious ceremony. It involves the parents of the bride specifically, but the groom as well. Um, it involves reading some Quran. It involves entering a contract, as they do nowadays. I don't think these words are being uttered. There is just a yes being said, and some paperwork being done these days. So I can't. I don't know.
Okay.
I, I have to get into four wives, and then I'll be able to give you an authoritative answer on that.
Okay. What's the next one we have a note for?
We have 55. Oh,
But
60.
I see what you're saying about people being assigned to you, women being assigned to you. Obviously, didn't have a purpose in the earth. They're only there apparently to feed you grapes, I guess, in the afterlife. And what happens with your spouses is, of course, they're your property, and you couldn't be deprived of your property. That appears to be the interpretation there.
Yes. Yes. I got it to say that, yeah, your spouse is going to be there with you. What if she doesn't become a Muslim?
Well, isn't
Right?
that forbidden just because of that
Yeah,
that
but
inconvenience?
this is early days. So let's say the guy goes and joins the cult, and the wife says no. Right? Now, they may separate and divorce, right? But if they don't, and or she dies, is she going to heaven with him, even though she never believed? Right? I mean,
Well,
it's got.
if she was ever Muslim and she doesn't believe, doesn't she have to be killed? Or I know that there was an apologist who said that that wasn't the case, but then I've seen other apologists who say that that is. I haven't come to that part of the Quran yet.
Yes, we will get there. We will get there. 3660. 60.
Okay. 60. Up, I'm all the way. Okay. Children of Adam, I did not command you. Oh, wait, I did not command you not to serve Satan, for he was your sworn enemy. Let's just make sure I read that correctly. Children of Adam, did I not? Okay, there we go. Did I not command you not to serve Satan, for he was your sworn enemy? But to serve me, that is the straight path.
That's the straight and narrow, yeah. Yeah, bad news for the Satanic Temple friends of ours. They're not doing well here. Okay, 3667.
Okay, and that one is, if it had been our will, we could have paralyzed them where they stood so that they could not move forward or backward.
Yes.
If we extend anyone's life, we reverse his development. Do they not use their reason? That was hugely confusing for me.
Yes, it is. Because because once you make a mistake like this in the translation, it's very hard to recover the meaning of the sentence. The word lamasakhnahum, if we wanted, it says paralyze them. Masakha is not paralyze. It's not at all. Right? Masakha is disfigure, disarrange their faces, turn them into different kind of animals.
If we extend anyone's life, we reverse his development.
No, it just messes their construction.
Stop. Hold on a second. Sorry for the interruption.
Yes, no problem.
Stop. I'm busy. Be quiet. Thank you. We have these games where we have this with newly adopted dog who has to tussle and disrupt and make continuous noise and distractions. Yeah, I don't know if anybody can see.
This is a YouTube dog.
See, this doesn't stop. This goes on under my chair for hours at a time.
The word masaha, for example, is you are familiar with the Antichrist concept.
Well, we don't know each other personally, but we're obviously working for the same team.
Yes. The Antichrist in Arabic is al-Masih ad-Dajjal, which comes from the word masaha. So he's ugly, his face is deranged, and he's also a liar. Hence his description. So he's not paralyzed. He's very capable of doing whatever they want to do. Also, the word masaha will come up later. This is the first time we encounter this word. It is to disfigure, mutilate, alter, change their appearances, turn them into monkeys. And I brought up the mention of the Antichrist, the Masih ad-Dajjal, the lying, transfigured. So that's what it actually tries to say, and unfortunately the translation is just bulldozes it over with paralyzed.
Got it.
They are still capable of doing everything they want to do. They just disfigured.
All right, what's the next one we have a note for?
3665.
65. Right. On that day, we shall seal up their mouths, but their hands will speak to us, and their feet bear witness to everything they have done. Now that's interesting. Okay, seal up their mouths. We saw that scene out of The Matrix where the guy suddenly has no mouth. And that was
Yes.
right after, if I remember, that's right after his hand spoke to him.
Yes. Yes. And it's interesting. You had a reference to Surah 2?
Which, I'm sorry, what?
65?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, because God says that he's the one who decides whether I'm going to believe or not, because he closes my ears. And then
Yes.
he's going to punish me for being the way he made me be.
And I wanted to applaud you for doing this. You're elbowing your way into the Quran, and that's great. More confidence. Good thing.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
You. Stop. Come here. Chill. What?
They're having fun.
Yeah, this is so professional. Can you please stop?
A Quran lesson with dogs.
Yeah, and as I said, these two, the ones on the biggest one and the littlest one, absolutely love each other, and they wrestle and tussle constantly, and it would really go on for hours. It's so hard. Will you knock that off? Hold on. You. Out. Everybody out. Everybody out. Now the problem is, now that they're outside, they will start crashing into the door.
That's okay.
Uh,
That's okay. That's minor.
yeah. So now when I want to do a podcast, I have to walk in here with a tranquilizer gun.
I would just give up some chew toy or something.
That doesn't help because the big white one wants to make a bunch of noise when he chews anything.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, and the other good thing is that he really loves the one with the squeaky thing in it. So when he bites, it squeaks. So we just imagine that during the podcast.
Awesome. Yeah. The best. Come on.
Let's see if we can get through this before it gets any worse over here.
We will. We will. So 36, 76.
76. All right, that is okay. 76. So, prophet, do not be distressed at what they say. We know what they conceal and what they reveal. Can man not see that we created him from a drop of fluid?
No, he can't. He needs a microscope for that. But the point I was trying to make, this verse 76 is abrogated. There is no need for stressing and distressing about what the unbelievers say. Just find them and kill them wherever they are. Easy.
Is that what this says?
That's the abrogation, yes. 5-9.
Okay, and again, how do we know that it's an abrogation? You have like a book of.
It's in a list, yeah. It's a list of abrogated verses. I just check it against the surahs we're working with, and if it has an abrogation, then I just mention it because, yeah, better know than not.
Okay. All right, and the next one.
And the next one, 78, 79.
79. And that is, say, he who created them in the first place will give them life again. He has full knowledge of every act of creation.
Translation strikes again, but we'll survive. In Islam, the resurrection at the end of days is a reconstructive resurrection. The very you will be rebuilt from the very you that you were before you died. And this is one of the verses that broke Islam for me completely. Not even God can do that.
But I'm interested because I've never heard your deconversion story. Expand on that. Paraphrase that.
It's got multiple facets, and this would be one of them. Um, this says your very bones and your very flesh will be reconstructed at the end day. Now, we talked about the 80 billion people who ever lived on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
And who knows how many of them will come. If I'd done something bad, then my essence, my me, every molecule and atom that constituted me needs to be punished. And nobody else's atoms and molecules need to be punished for my sin. So either Allah is unjust or he can't do it and he's just talking out of his back end.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, it's either God I'm not willing to worship, or there is no need to worship him because he's full of hooey. You can't reconstruct the same thing. If you done something wrong with your hand today, and then you died 60 years later, that hand isn't the hand that did the bad thing, because you change molecules and body parts all the time. On average, every 6 years, you replace almost every molecule in your body. Over a lifetime,
I
yes?
chopped this finger off twice. In the same place, in the exact same place, chopped it off twice, about 20 years apart. So which version of my hand would I get back if I were reconstructed?
And the worst thing is the skin that you shed was the material that you shed is going to be eaten, consumed by other creatures who are going to end up probably in other people later on.
Yeah. Interesting thing is that this finger's also on sideways.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
back sideways. Again, which version of my hand?
Which version of you is getting the punishment? Is it the final version or the previous version? That's okay with me. The problem is, if I done something horrible and he wants to punish me, he's going to burn other people's body parts as well, because now the material have recycled. And the Quran does not know about that at all. It's not just silent about it. It just blunders into statements like this, does not know that the material that the biomass of this planet is made of is constantly recycled into different creatures. When I die, the earthworms will eat me. Those earthworms will feed other animals. People will eat those animals, and I will be in other people. How will you punish them and then punish me? And them and not me, and me and not them. How is that going to even work?
And again, it traces back to my primary complaint about why are you being punished? You're being punished because you didn't believe. What didn't you believe?
Right.
The old weirdo who says things that we know are not true.
Right. But beyond that, if I did something bad and I need punishment for it, who's going to get that punishment? If you're going to reconstruct me, which version of me is going to get reconstructed? Because if I share molecules with other people, they're going to get punished too. That's not fair. That's very not fair, given how much bad things I did. Like I freaking didn't believe. There is no badder thing I could have done.
Badder?
Badder thing. Okay.
What's the next one?
Next one, 80.
80. So it is he who produces fire for you out of the green tree, lo and behold, and from this you kindle fire. Now, was my interpretation of this correct? Because I mean, who produces fire out of the green tree? That sounds to me
of the trees, yeah, just trees. The point I was trying to get to is this is the second or the third time the Quran mentions the fire as being wood powered. Again, wood powered fire. If you're going to make a fire in the Quran, you need wood. That includes hellfire, by the way. There is no other technological method in the Quran describing how to make fire but wood.
Okay.
Interesting. Why? I don't know. I mean, wood doesn't even burn that hot. I mean, it's plenty hot for me and you, but like we discovered coal and that burns a lot hotter. And then we discovered atomic furnaces. And then we discovered the sun, the corona of the sun at 1,000,000 degrees. That's not even described. That's not in there. It's just missing. You want to talk to me as a creator of the universe, mesmerize me. Tell me stuff I can't know until 1,000 years later.
Yeah, and if there was no way, if let's say I've heard a lot of apologists about this, they would say that because it says that the heavens are stretched out, and now we see that, and that's what it said in the 8th century or thereabouts, and now we know that space is expanding. Well, that proves what the Quran said, except that when it said that the heavens were stretched out, it was talking about laying the curtain of night over the domicile or the firmament dome, crystal dome that's supposed to cover the flat earth. Completely different, and no, it doesn't confirm that.
No, it actually doesn't. It's sad that
But
this is where.
What if it did? What if it was explaining things that people couldn't understand? There's a way to explain that. In a way that people would be able to understand it. There'd be no way they could have scientifically resolved this, but you could tell it to them and then and have them know that they're going to find out, and have them know the specifics of it, so that it's not this ambiguous thing about stretching or unfolding, and it is not cosmic expansion. Explain cosmic expansion. Explain. Give us the idea that the stars that we see are like the sun,
right.
But you can say that. It distinguishes the sun from the stars as if they're different things, and that the stars are all smaller than the sun, and that the earth and the sun are the same size. If the Bible or if the Quran were written by some being who actually knew better, they clearly could have stated so and made sure that people understood. The Quran could have said that some of those stars are actually bigger than the sun. It's just they're so far
much bigger. Yeah. I mean, I think we had this with Nader. It was going like the stars will fall on Earth. Remember that? And I was going like, no, not even God can do that.
Yeah. So my version of the Quran would have explained that, that meteors are not actually falling stars, that they're actually very tiny things that just glow very brightly as they hurtle through our atmosphere, or usually, hopefully, very tiny things, and that the stars would be at least as big as the sun, if not bigger, perhaps.
Yes. No, it actually says stars, and it's just, you sit there and get your head in your hand and say, no, don't, please, don't. Anyways, 81. Here is who created the heavens and the earth, not able. Isn't he who created the heavens and the earth not able to create the likes of these people? I'm just correcting your sentence.
It's circular reasoning.
It is. I'm just fixed it because it was missing the first isn't, whatever. 82. And this takes us back to the phase of the moon and their description, 36, 39. You can read 82 if you want.
Okay, that is, when he wills something to be, his way is to say be, and it is, which kind of negates all of the work that we have to do for him. It would take him more effort to tell us to do what he wants us to do than to wish it to be done. Because all he has to do is wish it to be done, and it's
He
done.
wanted people saved, and he had to have Noah build a boat. Like, build him a boat, man.
Yeah, and let's see, he had to flood the world. Why did he have to flood the world? Because he made a
I
mistake
don't know.
again?
Yeah, because he made a mistake again. And now he has to wash it down, and guess
And
what?
he could have just changed the minds of the people that were bothering him, and not even by taking over their free will. I mean, you're talking about a being that exists forever, and you talk about humans that exist for just a few decades.
Just a fraction of a second.
So what is the issue in letting them live out their lives? They're going to be dead, and you could use population mechanics and say, okay, well, I don't want people who think this way to be part of that next generation. So you convince the younger ones, and then the older ones die out, and the population is now completely replaced with people who have a better understanding. That would be like the way to do that. Education would be a great way to do that. Flooding and killing every baby deer in North America just because some people pissed you off in Medina does not make a hell of a lot of sense.
Yes. Do you have a
Or
Medina?
I said Medina. I probably should have said Turkey.
Do you have a city called Medina in the US?
No, I don't think. Well, we probably do, but I don't know about it.
I mean, you got hell.
Yeah, we do. I've been to hell and back.
Yeah.
I've driven through hell.
Yes.
And it's right outside of Detroit, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yep. So I think we're done with 36.
All right. Well, thank you very much. What is our next surah? We were reading these in order of revelation, which I still never understood. And I don't see that there's necessarily any value in this, but it is a different way of doing it, and I'm getting some amusement out of that. So in order of revelation, let's see, if this was 36, our next one is, where is it? Next one is going to be 25. And that's Al-Furqan. Now, it'll probably be a couple of weeks before we get to that. And I am going to be, in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be in Orlando, Florida, doing a presentation there. So probably not going to get to it until after I get back from that. So it'll be November before we do another one of these. Bogey, I thank you very, very much again, as always, for taking part in this. Anyone else interested in being on something like this, especially if you want to defend the Quran, please. I would love to hear the perspective of somebody who somehow manages to still believe this. That would be an interesting conversation, I think, and hopefully more productive than the last guy who was a professional apologist and simply refused to admit when he was always wrong. But I would still like to have that conversation. So please contact me, and I'll be happy, delighted, really, to set that up. Bogey, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Thank you very much, and till November, and it's Surah 25. Bye-bye.
All the best.